Let me tell you about the night I thought I was going to die, or worse. It happened a few years back when I was 19. I lived in this small town called Rainsville. Quiet place, not much going on, but that night, everything felt off. It was a Saturday in mid-October. You know the kind. Cold air, damp sidewalks, leaves plastered to the ground like soggy stickers. My cousin Jess had invited me out to this little bar downtown for her friend's birthday. It wasn't really my scene, but I figured why not? I needed to clear my head after a rough week at work. Jess and I had grown up together, practically like sisters. But recently we'd been fighting a lot over stupid stuff, friends, plans, whatever. That night she was glued to her boyfriend Wes, who I couldn't stand. After a while I gave up trying to hang out with them and decided to head home early. The rain had picked up. That cold kind that feels like tiny needles hitting your skin. I stepped outside and pulled my hoodie tighter, then opened the Uber app. It said a driver named Marta was 5 minutes away in a black Honda Civic. I sighed with relief. I was soaked and just wanted to be in dry clothes. I walked over to the corner of Ash and Main, where I'd set the pickup. The street was mostly empty. Streetlights flickered. The wind howled in this weird, whispery way through the alley behind me. I kept glancing over my shoulder even though I knew no one was there, and then a white car slowed down and rolled to a stop right in front of me. The window came down with a mechanical hum, and a woman leaned slightly out. "You waiting for Uber?" she asked. She had a soft voice, calm, almost too calm. "Yeah, for Marta," I said, stepping closer. She nodded just once. "That's me. Hop in. Now here's where I should have stopped. I should have double-checked the license plate. I should have looked at the car type. But it was raining and she said the right name. She sounded normal enough. And I was cold and tired. So I opened the back door and got in. Immediately something felt wrong. I couldn't explain it at first. The car smelled weird, not bad, just strange. Like wet carpet and lavender mixed with something metallic. And it was way too clean. Not a single thing out of place. No fast food wrappers, no hair ties, no dust. Even the floor mats looked brand new. I said, "Thanks for picking me up," and she didn't respond. She just started driving. I figured maybe she didn't hear me. Or maybe she didn't speak much English. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Her face was stiff, unmoving, like she was concentrating way too hard on the road. Her curly black hair was pulled tight into a bun and her eyes were huge and didn't blink much. Still, I told myself, maybe she's just a serious driver. It's fine, but then I noticed something else. We weren't going the right way. At first, I assumed she was taking a back road to avoid traffic, but we passed the exit to the main highway that leads to my neighborhood. I knew these streets. I'd lived here my whole life. We were heading deeper into the industrial part of town. Warehouses, shipping docks, closed businesses. Not a place you go at night. "Hey, I think you missed the turn," I said. No answer. I leaned forward a bit. "Excuse me?" I said. "I think we're going the wrong way." Still nothing. Her hands were gripping the wheel so tightly her knuckles looked pale, almost gray in the dim light. She didn't even glance at me. My stomach started to twist. I pulled out my phone to check the app, and that's when I saw it. "Your driver, Marta, has arrived." The map showed a black Honda Civic still parked at the pickup spot, and I was very much not in a black Honda Civic. I froze. I was in the wrong car. My heart jumped into my throat. I started breathing faster, trying to stay calm. "Hey," I said loudly, "you're not my driver. Pull over, I want to get out." "Nothing. Stop the car." Now she didn't say a word, just kept driving, eyes locked on the road. I reached for the door handle, locked. I tried the window switch. Dead. I leaned forward and started banging on her seat, yelling, "Let me out." "This isn't funny." She finally spoke softly, almost like a whisper. "Just a few more minutes, that was it." "No!" I screamed. "Let me out right now." I don't know what made her do it, but she swerved suddenly to the side of the road. The car jerked violently and came to a hard stop. The door lock clicked open. I didn't wait. I shoved the door open and ran, just ran, without even looking back. I stopped under a streetlight, panting, soaked through, heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I pulled out my phone and saw that the real Uber driver was calling. I picked up and shouted, "I got in the wrong car. Please come get me." He was calm and kind. Said he'd be there in 2 minutes. When he pulled up, I got in, shaking and drenched. I told him everything. Every detail. He looked at me with wide eyes, then said something I'll never forget. "You just got out of something bad. Really bad." He told me there'd been rumors. Local police had been warning people. There were reports of fake Uber drivers, mostly women, picking up young girls at bars and clubs. They'd charm them into the car and take them somewhere isolated. After that, no one really knew what happened. A few girls had gone missing. 2 were found days later, alive but barely able to speak. I sat there in the back seat, soaked and shaking, feeling like I'd just brushed up against something dark. Something evil. And that voice, the soft whisper of just a few more minutes, it still haunts me. I never saw her face clearly. Not really. Just her eyes in the mirror. Wide, dark, too still. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't looked at my phone when I did. I don't like to think about it, but I'll tell you this. Next time you call a ride, check everything. Plate number, car make, driver's name, even their face if you can. Because not every car that stops for you is the one that's supposed to, and not every driver is taking you home. Okay, so this happened a few years ago, 2019 I think, back when I was in college and visiting a friend in a small town called Miller's Hollow. It was one of those quiet, middle-of-nowhere places where everything closed by 9, and the air always smelled like wood smoke or wet leaves. You'd think nothing ever really happens in towns like that, but that night was different. It was a Saturday, and my buddy Joel had gone out of town for the weekend, leaving me with his apartment to crash in. I figured I'd wander around, grab a few drinks at one of the local bars, and maybe meet someone. You know, nothing wild, just chill. After a couple beers and a whiskey shot, okay, maybe 2, I pulled out my phone and opened up Tinder, just to see who was around. That's when I saw a message from a girl named Kara. She had already messaged me first with something like, "What are you up to tonight?" Her profile picture was kinda blurry, but she looked cute enough. Long dark hair, soft smile, standing near a campfire in one photo. I messaged her back, told her I'd just left a bar and was looking to hang out. She replied almost instantly, "Come over. We can smoke and chill." It seemed super easy, almost too easy. I asked for her address and she sent it without hesitation. A small house on the edge of town, looked like it was tucked away in a woodsy area just off a back road. Honestly, I should have thought more about how fast everything was moving, but at the time I just thought I got lucky. I ordered an Uber, and about 10 minutes later this older guy in a beat-up gray Toyota Corolla pulled up. He had a thick flannel shirt on, smelled faintly like coffee and cigarettes, and seemed way too cheerful for driving around strangers at night. "You heading somewhere fun?" he asked as I climbed into the front seat. I normally sit in the back, but I was feeling buzzed and chatty. "Meeting someone I matched with on Tinder," I said, grinning. He laughed. Young love in the digital age. Be careful, though. You never know who you're really meeting." We made small talk on the way. He told me stories about weird passengers he'd picked up. One guy who tried to sell him stolen fireworks. Another who insisted he'd seen a UFO over Miller's Hollow last summer. I laughed along. He was good company, and honestly, I wasn't thinking much about anything other than meeting Kara. About halfway there, I asked Kara for her number. She gave it to me and we started texting. Her replies were short but normal. "See you soon. Drive safe." It's a red house with a porch swing. When we pulled up to the address, something felt off. The house was small, 1 story, and surrounded by tall pine trees. No lights on. No cars in the driveway, just darkness and silence. The front porch looked like it hadn't been used in a while, paint peeling off the swing, one of the boards cracked in half. There were wind chimes hanging near the door, but they weren't moving. No breeze, just still air. "This the place?" the driver asked, squinting. "Yeah," I said, but I hesitated. He looked at the house for a second too long. "You sure? This place looks familiar. Can't put my finger on it, but..." "Yeah, be careful, that should have been red flag number 2. I laughed it off, thanked him, and stepped out. He didn't drive off right away. Just pulled up a bit further down the road and parked under a tree. I figured he was waiting for his next ride, but looking back now, maybe he was just watching. I walked up to the porch and rang the bell, no sound. I waited. Nothing, so I knocked. Still nothing. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Kara. "It's open. Come in." Right then, something happened that made my skin crawl. There was a knock, not on the door. On the window, hard. One loud knock. I jumped and spun around. The window was to my right, and even though the lights were off inside, I saw the blind shift. Someone was there. I could barely make out the shape of a hand waving slowly. Not frantic. Not excited, just slow. Like they knew I was scared. My heart started pounding and I pulled out my phone to call Kara. As soon as it started ringing, it went to voicemail. One ring, then click. But just as fast a call came in, not from Kara. From a number I didn't know. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to. "Hello?" I said, the voice on the other end. It was my Uber driver. "Listen to me," he said, voice low and serious. "Walk away from that house now." I froze. "What?" "Don't go inside. Just walk back to the car. I'm pulling up now." Sure enough, his car came rolling up in front of the house. He wasn't smiling anymore. I didn't ask questions. I turned around, walked back down the porch steps, and got in. He drove off without saying a word for about a minute. Then he said, "That house is empty. Has been for over a year. Local story. Guy got lured there, same kind of setup, Tinder. Met a girl, came to the house. He never came out. I just sat there in silence, the alcohol buzz completely gone now. They found his body in the basement. Robbed, stabbed. Someone had been using the house to trap people. Cops never found who did it. It just stopped. I felt cold all over, numb. "Why'd you come back for me?" I asked. He looked at me and said, "I recognized the address right when we pulled up. Didn't feel right leaving you there." When we got back to Joel's apartment, I tried to thank him. He just nodded and said, "Don't trust too easy, man." The next morning I looked up the address. The news articles were all there. Pictures of the same red house with the porch swing, taped off with yellow crime scene lines. The murder happened in October the year before. Same setup, same app. I reported the profile, but by then it was already gone, like it had never existed. To this day, I don't know who Kara was, or who was really behind that window. But I know one thing for sure. If I'd opened that door, I probably wouldn't be here to tell you this story. So if you ever get a message that feels too good to be true, and the house is dark and someone tells you, "It's open," come inside, don't just walk away. Okay, so picture this. It's a chilly October night in 2023, just past 9 p.m. I was out driving for a rideshare app. Not Uber, not Lyft, something local called Quick Lyft. Honestly, most nights are dead quiet in a place like Brookridge, this tiny town tucked between nowhere and forgotten. The kind of place where the most exciting thing is happening is a raccoon stealing dog food off porches. Anyway, it was a Monday, and business was slow, like dead slow. I was half thinking of calling it a night when my phone buzzed. A new ride. The name on the request was Derek, and the pickup spot was an old gas station near the outskirts of town. The kind that hasn't pumped gas since dial-up internet was a thing. I figured, hey, why not? Maybe it's just some guy needing a ride home from work. I tapped accept and headed over. When I pulled up to the gas station, it was darker than I expected. The flickering light over the front door kept blinking in this weird rhythm, like it was trying to send a message in Morse code or something. And instead of one guy waiting, there were two. Both young, maybe early 20s. Hoodies on, heads down. One of them raised his hand as I stopped, so I figured that was Derek. They got in the back without saying much. I glanced in the mirror and asked, "You Derek?" The guy on the left nodded, eyes hidden under the shadow of his hood. That was all the confirmation I got. As I pulled away, the silence settled in thick. You know how sometimes a quiet car ride can feel peaceful? Yeah, this wasn't that kind of quiet. This was the kind that makes the hairs on your arms stand up for no good reason. The kind where your brain whispers, "Something's off, I tried breaking the ice." So, headed home from work or? No answer. I chuckled awkwardly like I wasn't slightly unnerved. Cool. They leaned in close to whisper to each other. I couldn't make out what they were saying, just soft, scratchy murmurs like they were speaking through grit. Every time I peeked in the rearview mirror, they were already looking up at me. eyes wide and unblinking like they knew I was watching. I'd look away fast only to glance back a few minutes later and catch them still staring. It was like a game I didn't want to play, but couldn't stop myself from joining. Eventually, I asked where exactly they were headed. Still nothing. So I tried again, a little louder. This time, the one on the right barked Cypress Hollow. Now, Cypress Hollow is a busted old strip of road on the edge of town. All boarded up buildings, closed shops, and empty lots. Nobody goes there unless they have a reason. And trust me, most people don't have one. But I kept driving. As we got closer, the road turned rough. Cracks like spiderwebs in the asphalt. Streetlights were either flickering or completely dead. I could barely see 10 feet in front of me. When I slowed down near the address the app had listed, I saw it. A beat-up storefront with no sign, just a row of tall shadows standing out front. 5 or 6 figures, still as statues. I turned around to ask, "Is this where you wanted to?" And that's when I froze. The 2 guys in my back seat had masks on now. Not medical masks or Halloween ones. These were white plastic with hollow black eyes and stretched out grins, like something from a low-budget horror movie. Think The Purge meets roadside garage sale. Then I felt it. Something cold and solid pressing against my shoulder. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The guy behind me leaned in and whispered, voice like sandpaper, "Drive up slow." My heart was hammering so loud I swore they could hear it. I eased the car forward toward the group outside. As we got closer, I could see all of them were wearing masks too. Different shapes, different grin, some happy, some twisted. One had what looked like red paint smeared around the mouth, but something told me it wasn't paint. They closed in. One of them rapped on my window with a heavy thud. I rolled it down slowly. "Wallet," he growled. No hesitation. I handed it over. Cash, cards, ID, everything. The 2 passengers got out without another word, joining the masked group. They stood there for a second, all staring at me. Just staring. Like they were waiting for something. Then one of them kicked my back door hard enough to make the whole car shake, and they all turned and walked into the shadows behind the storefront. I hit the gas and didn't stop until I was halfway across town. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the wheel. I called QuickLift to report what happened. They said they'd look into it, maybe contact the authorities. I wasn't holding my breath. Later, they told me the profile had been made with stolen info. Fake name, fake photo, even a fake email. The credit card? Stolen too. That ride cost me $250, all my IDs, and a ton of hassle replacing everything. But that's not what bothers me most. What bothers me is what didn't happen. They had a gun, or at least something that felt like one. They could have taken the car, or me, but they didn't. It felt like they just wanted to scare me, like I was part of some twisted game. And here's the part I've never told anyone. A few weeks later, I was driving down that same road during the day, just out of curiosity. That storefront? It was burned. Blackened walls, roof collapsed. The city had it marked as condemned, said it had been abandoned for years, which doesn't make sense because I saw those people. I heard them. And sometimes, not every night, but just enough to keep me on edge. I swear I still hear that whisper in the dark when I drive. Drive up, slow. It was February 2023, the night of the Super Bowl, and the whole town of Fairgrove was buzzing. I'd just left my cousin Lily's place after watching the game with a bunch of friends. Her house was only about 15 minutes from mine, but it was already late and I didn't feel like walking in the cold. The streets were dark and the air had that quiet stillness that made everything feel a little off. You know that feeling, like the night's holding its breath. Anyway, I pulled out my phone in order to ride home. When the car showed up, it looked totally normal. A silver sedan, a little dusty, but nothing weird. I opened the door to the back seat and saw someone already sitting there. A guy in a dark hoodie and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He didn't look up, just sat there, really still. I figured it must have been an Uber pool or something. Maybe someone else had been picked up first. I didn't remember selecting that option, but I didn't think much of it. I was tired and just wanted to get home. The driver, A guy in his 50s with glasses and a quiet voice greeted me politely. I said hi, got in, and buckled up. The guy next to me didn't say a word, didn't even glance in my direction, just kept his head down like he was staring at his shoes or maybe sleeping. The whole ride was weirdly quiet. No music, no small talk. Just the soft hum of the engine and the occasional click of the turn signal. And the guy next to me? He didn't move, not once. No phone, no shifting in his seat, nothing. It was like sitting next to a statue. I tried not to look, but something about him made my skin crawl. His breathing was slow and steady, but it was almost too steady. Mechanical. Like someone pretending to breathe. After what felt like forever, we pulled up in front of my house. I thanked the driver, got out, and closed the door behind me. The porch light was off and everything was pitch black. As I reached into my pocket to grab my keys, I heard another car door shut. From the other side, I froze. I slowly turned around, and there he was. The man in the baseball cap. He was standing in the middle of the street perfectly still, facing me, but his head was lowered and the brim of his cap completely shadowed his face. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there like he was waiting for something. "Hey," I called out, trying to keep my voice calm. "You okay?" No answer. I took a step toward my front door, but something in my gut told me not to go inside. Not yet. I took a breath and started walking down the block instead, acting like I'd forgotten something. I tried to stay calm, but my heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I glanced back over my shoulder. He was walking too, slowly but definitely following me. Not directly behind, across the street, matching my pace, watching. I turned the corner and picked up speed. So did he. That's when the fear kicked in. Real fear, not the kind you feel during a scary movie, the kind that lives in your bones. I turned again, trying to lose him, but when I looked back, he was still there. Not running, just walking, like he had all the time in the world. Suddenly, I bolted. I didn't even think. My legs just took off. I ran as fast as I could, tearing down the sidewalk, dodging trash bins and parked cars. My breath turned into white clouds in the freezing night air. Behind me, I heard footsteps, fast, heavy, and close. He was running now. I didn't look back again. I couldn't, I just ran. When I got to my block, I ducked behind the houses, cutting through my neighbor's backyard, trying not to slip on the frozen grass. I made it to my back door, unlocked it with shaking hands, and slammed it shut behind me. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't move for a full minute. I just stood there in the dark, listening. Silence. Finally, I peeked through the blinds. The front yard was empty, but my stomach dropped when I saw something on the porch. Something small and strange, like a shadow where there shouldn't be one. When I looked again, it was gone. I grabbed my phone and called the Uber driver right away. He picked up, sounding confused but calm. "Hey," I said, trying not to panic. "Who was the guy sitting in the back seat when you picked me up?" He paused, then said, "He told me he was a friend of yours. Said you were his ride." "What?" I asked. I've never seen him before in my life. The driver got quiet. "He didn't get back in the car," he said slowly. "I thought maybe he lived there too. I was going to report it just in case. I still have his profile info from the app. I asked him to please report it. He promised he would. I never called him again. Never checked back. I don't know what happened to that man. I don't know why he chose me or what he was planning. But I do know this, he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to be in that car. And ever since that night, I felt like I'm still being watched. I started checking the cameras around my house, the street, even the gas station near the corner. Sometimes late at night, I think I see him in the footage. Just standing there, not moving, waiting. I never use ride shares anymore. Not alone. And if I ever do, I always check the back seat before I get in. Every single time. Because I still think about that night. And sometimes when the wind picks up and the streetlights flicker, I wonder if he's still out there, watching someone else, or waiting to finish what he started.